The last video we talked about was limestone, marble, and sandstone, and how we use the same techniques to work with it. Use the same techniques with granite also, but it's a much harder stone and it'll last a lot longer. This house was all built out of granite. This wall was built out of granite and a rough granite, and it's easy to chip. So we're going to talk a little bit about granite, but first, where would you go locally in your area if you wanted to find out how long a certain stone would last? We go to a cemetery, because when you go to a cemetery, they used a lot of local stones from the local area many years ago, and all the tombstones have a date on it, and you can tell by the date how long a stone lasts in a certain type of weather. So we're just going to take a look at a few stones. Now this one was made out of granite, and they put it up in 1902. Well, look at what happens if they used for a roof. They used what we call flagstone or Pennsylvania bluestone, and it's all deteriorated already. See how it all falls apart? Now this is a whole one made out of granite, and the roof is granite too, but see, sooner or later that'll start, the frost and the water will get in there, and then that'll start falling apart. Now this one is like a marble, 1847, but over here you can't even see where the letters are. So we know marble and limestone by an average loses about an inch every 1,000 years. Here's the Pennsylvania flagstone. You can see where it's seamed and it's all falling apart. And you can see where that piece of flagstone deteriorated. And the marble and the stone is, you can't read nothing anymore. So the story is, nothing's going to last in masonry. It's all going to fall apart sooner or later. Usually it's the cement joints that goes first, and then the stone. So you got to be careful what kind of stone you're using on a certain project at a certain time. This is a good example of what masons call a water table. Usually from 30 inches down, they usually use granite, and then they start with their limestone or brick, because as the water splashes, it doesn't ruin the granite. Granite is a real hard stone that don't really take the water in like limestone or brick. So this is an example of a water table. You usually see it on banks, you see it on churches or government buildings, because that's usually the only places that they could afford it. Now this video is about granite, but I just want to show you what happens when they don't use granite for a water table. You can see how everything is deteriorating, just like when we looked at those tombstones. Everything is blistering and falling apart because that's where the water hits it. So that's why we use granite as a water table in buildings where you want them to last a long time. And here's another example of steps built out of limestone. They're starting to deteriorate. They're about 100 years old. And you can see over here how this is deteriorating. Now this is a good example where the limestone is close to the ground and the water gets into it, and you can see where it's peeling and falling apart. The joints fall apart, and that's why they use granite on the bottom, usually for a water table on big, old, expensive buildings. Pennsylvania flagstone, when they use that for a water table. And the same thing down here. You see how it all falls apart? Now, these are the granite curbs, and they're mostly all throughout Denmark. And every 35 years you don't have to be putting new concrete in, because granite is granite, and it lasts a hell of a lot longer than concrete. Here's what those granite curbs look like when they're taken out of the ground. Okay, here we are in the building. This is all granite too. This is in Copenhagen. This is a water table, we call it. Now here we are on the bottom of a brick building, and this is granite. You see it? Oh, they do that, and then the rest of the building would be brick. Now we're at the church in Roskilde, Denmark, and this of course is the cobblestone, and here we have granite. Now we're back at the Luzerne County Courthouse, and they reinstalled these granite stone steps. And you can go to my video, Mike Haduck Films Mason Reinstalling Granite Steps. But the thing is with granite, you use it over and over and over again. It's a real hard stone and it almost lasts forever. If they did this out of concrete, they would be replacing it every 30 years. Now I did this video on granite. Here's the rough piece again. Like I said, it's easy to chip. Very easy to chip. And this piece right here, this is from a kitchen table. This is, you can polish it, and I didn't want to get into that. That's a whole different kind of feel. If you want to know a little bit more granite, you can go to my Egypt visit video. But I just want to show you, when you're going around looking at buildings, you kind of get an idea of what kind of stones they use and how they use it. So that's the end of this video, granite, and then after this we'll get on to something else, cobblestone.